Hello, welcome to the Student Support Portal interview series. So in this week's episode, we have Myles Bax from Robotical. Myles, you're very welcome.
Hi Anna, thanks very much for having me.
No problem, we're more than delighted to have you and learn a little bit more about your company and your products. So could you tell me in your own words just a little bit more information about you and what you do in your day-to-day life?
I'd be delighted to. Well, first of all, maybe I should just mention Robotical. So Robotical is our company. Is founded in 2016 by Dr. Alexander Enoch, a roboticist from the University of Edinburgh. And he wanted to create a robot that was truly had some educational value, but yet was far more than simply a novelty toy. You know, something that had real academic credentials and an accessible price point for teachers to provide a learning progression into all things robotics and technology. And so he came up with Marty the robot right here. And my job at Robotical is in business development. My focus is on creating partnerships with educational resellers and distributors all around the world to allow more students to engage with robotics in the classroom.
That's wonderful. It's a very interesting backstory. And how did you yourself find yourself working for Robotical?
That's a good question. I guess I had done a few jobs. I've been in the classroom myself, actually, as a teacher, and I'd also worked in publishing. And I guess I came to a point in my career where I wanted something a bit more exciting. And I had always had a bit of an inkling that I wanted to get involved in a startup. And I'd seen a video that Sandy had created about a crowdfunding campaign for his product, Marty the Robot. And the campaign was all about making kids more excited about STEM subjects and learning about technology in general. And the feeling was, from his point of view, that a lot of people were put off by the subjects at school. And yet that was strange because these subjects are really exciting. They allow you to be creative. They allow you to get involved in some very exciting careers. And so this video was all about how Marty could really inspire the next generation of roboticists and engineers. And myself, not being from a scientific or technical background, found myself being quite drawn into this video as well. I thought, well, if I'm getting excited about STEM, then surely other people will get excited about STEM when they get involved in using a cool wee robot. And so I thought there was something, really compelling about the business and the business idea. And Sandy had really thought out, how he wanted to approach the market. And I applied, and unfortunately I got on with Sandy and was offered the job.
Excellent. The rest is history then, as they say. And who wouldn't want to do a job and make a robot?
Yeah, sorry, the technology doesn't always have a full, clear non-lag in the questions. So sorry for speaking over you. But yeah, just saying the rest is history. It was 2016 I started with the company, so it was really at the start. It was pre-funding, so a lot of the early months and indeed the first year, there was a lot of pitching for investment that year, building the business case, and we were fortunate in 2017 to get backing from a group of angel investors, and that allowed us to really grow the team and start to develop a bit more quickly. And we also were able to ship our first batch of crowdfunded robots in 2017. And from then on, we started to increase our production, explore new supply chain routes. And to date now, we've sold over 7,000 robots worldwide from places from Sydney in Australia to Kigali in Rwanda. We've got classrooms using Marty, which has been really, really exciting.
Oh, that's wonderful. And for people listening then, what does Marty do? What's the whole premise? How does a kid and the school make use of Marty?
Sure. So Marty is a walking, dancing, eyebrow wiggling robot, but you need to program Marty to do these things. So you can do that by using a platform called Scratch, which is many of your listeners, watchers will know, a great platform for learning all the basics about coding and programming. So you can drag and drop blocks of code, creating a sequence of events that the robot will then perform. And the cool thing about integrating with Scratch is that many teachers are already aware of how it runs and how it's used. But many teachers may have used it in a two-dimensional sense, in that you're programming a cartoon figure, a sprite, as they say, on the screen. And the great thing about Marty is you take the coding out of the screen into real life, and that can really spark the imagination of the kids in the classroom as they can understand that coding, programming, and computational thinking can have a role in real life applications and real objects too.
Wonderful. And what's the age range then of children and young people that can really get the most from Marty and use him?
Yeah, so our focus is on 8 to 12-year-old students. We think towards the end of primary school is a great time to get started with Marty. Maybe a bit before that as well. But Marty really bridges that transition between primary and high school. It will allow students who have already got a bit of a basic understanding of how Scratch might work to enter a new dimension with a physical robot being programmed by a well-known platform. But the great thing about Marty is there's a learning progression after that. You can start to add different sensors, for example, in the robot, and you can also use other well-loved hardware tools like microbits and the Raspberry Pi to integrate and connect with Marty to do all sorts of different challenges and fun activities in the classroom. And then, of course, you can also use real programming languages as well. So we're in a bit of a transition point at Robotical because we're about to release our new version 2 of Marty. And on the roadmap for this version is a fully integrated Python programming experience as well. So once you've mastered the basics of getting Scratch to make Marty the star in your music video, you can then go one step further and start text-based coding with real languages like Python that are used in the workplace, and start to get confident and familiar with a language that is increasingly important for people who work in technology all over the world.
Wow, that is amazing. And obviously, I can imagine quite an awful lot of older children then would be able to avail of that too. Do you have any examples where maybe children that might not necessarily have connected previously, they're forming, tight-knit bonds, that it's given children softer skills as well because they're coming together as a group, or maybe you don't touch on that specifically?
No, that's a great question, and absolutely. I think the great thing about Marty is it is a character, and kids can project their own personality on Marty. So it is a very inclusive tool. We've got numerous stickers, for example. So on a basic level, you can make Marty, have long eyelashes, or you can make Marty have a moustache, and you can choose, how Marty is. And often kids will make Marty in their own image, which is quite interesting in itself. But the simple fact that Marty has emotions, in that you can move eyebrows, creating a happy or sad or excited look, is really interesting, because especially in the field where you may have some kids who think a bit differently, Marty has the ability to really interact with those kids, and that's been really interesting to see. We've had a number of teachers say to us that their kids have been very engaged by Marty and really can identify with the robot in ways that maybe they might not have had that confidence to interact with some of their fellow classmates previously. And that's been really interesting to see. And in terms of collaborative working, a robot is a great way to encourage kids to think about problem solving in groups. So we've done a number of workshops where you might have small groups of 2 to 3, having a laptop or a tablet and a robot is a great way to get kids thinking about problem solving, and there's room for a number of different voices when you you're coming to solve a problem with quite an open-ended problem with a robot. So yeah, hopefully that helps answer that question.
Yeah, very much so. And just on a personal note then, what kind of version of Marty? I've looked at a lot of the videos that you've published, and there's skiing Marty, there's mindfulness Marty. Who's your favourite Marty and why?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I quite like sports, so I do like a skiing Marty or a penalty taking footballing Marty. I do like it when a robot is getting active and getting involved in various sports. So I'll have to take one of those.
So, Myles, you have also been rather busy in your personal life over the last year with having the birth of your son.
That's correct. Yeah, it's been a very busy year.
Excellent. And what do you think Marty could look like whenever your son is old enough to use him, or maybe he's using him already?
Well, actually, it is funny because I think Marty is very appealing for kids, young and old. And our son has been quite taken by Marty's movements. So if Finn sees Marty across the room moving and wiggling and kicking a ball, he gets pretty excited. So I think it's certainly something that can be inspiring for kids even at a very young age. And that is the reason why Dr. Alexander Enoch, or Sandy as we call him, originally founded Robotical. It was actually to inspire his niece to think about robotics and career paths along technology lines. And at the time, everything on the market was either high-end, inaccessible, very academic robot, or else a simple remote control novelty toy. But he wanted to create a real robot at an accessible price point for schools, and that's how Marty was born.
Fantastic. And obviously in the last year too, we've been all globally, everybody in the world going through quite a difficult time. Has Marty still been able to find space in this time, and how has that played out?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think one of the challenges for everyone is that as lots of meetings and indeed schoolwork moves to Zoom or other type of video conferencing platforms, it is important to still maintain some element of physicality. It's important for people to meet and converse. And equally, it's important for kids to understand how things work. And there is a danger with COVID in that technology can, although more technology is coming into play in education, it can be increasingly difficult to understand how it actually works and it is put together. And so we at Robotical think this is a really important time to reinforce the message that physical products or physical products that help people understand how technology works are vital tools in a modern profession.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's an absolute pleasure. And for anybody listening that wants to contact Myles, you can look his profile up on the Student Support Portal. So thank you, Myles.
Marty says thanks too. And we are both delighted to be involved with the Student Support Portal, and of course, happy to answer any questions that you may have. Should also say that many schools, if they're interested, can have a free trial of Marty. We offer that, and if that's something that is of interest, it's well worth contacting Anna or myself.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching this episode. My name is Anna Egner, Community and Business Development Manager at the Student Support Portal, and I'm here to answer any questions. You can contact me via anna@studentsupportportal.com. That's ANNA@studentsupportportal.com, or alternatively, message me on my portal profile. Many thanks.